Welcome to Nature's Neighbor on AM 1230 KPRL. Nature's Neighbor. We're live and local and all about living sustainably right here on the Central Coast.
There we go. Thanks, Mike, for fixing me. Mike Messer walked in to make it all work better for me. Hi, everyone. I am Melanie, the host of Nature's Neighbor right here on KPRL, sitting in the studio with our boy Chad and Mike, and sitting here getting excited and thinking about what is to come for this week. I have not seen on any forecast in over a year and a half for any meteorologist to say 100% chance of rain. That's crazy. I have not seen that for so long. It's so exciting. So there's a 100% chance that we're actually going to get something. And they're calling for some pretty extreme inches that I'm hearing. I'm hearing up to 5 inches where we are. And
it could happen.
It could happen.
We certainly need it. But that's a lot right away.
It is. And it's a little frightening. But we have been out preparing for it this weekend. I'll admit I am very sore today and a little off because when you plant 30 pistachio trees and the greenhouse is finally done, thank you, my husband, and we planted citrus trees in the greenhouse and we got all our peas planted and did our second rotation of onions. We're finishing up all our bare root. We planted fig trees, we planted pomegranates, some different types of mulberries. I'm excited because, you know, as I prepared the soil back about 6 weeks ago for anticipation of this planting, I was realizing that by mulching and composting, I was actually really retaining the moisture in my soil. So being prepared back then is helping me be able to plant this now. So with that, when I got into the ground this weekend, I was realizing that there is quite a bit of moisture in the ground, considering how drought-like we've been for the last year and a half. But the soil does some pretty miraculous things by retaining and surviving and carrying on. I think a lot of us humans need to learn from the dirt and learn how to carry on how life continues through the dirt. And so that would be my suggested teaching tool is learn from that, because it's funny how things just end up working out in the dirt, literally.
I think you should do T-shirts. I see T-shirts. Learn from the dirt.
Learn from the dirt. Hey, a new slogan, hey?
I think so.
Yeah, learn from the... It's funny, though, because there you can read the dirt to see what we should be doing or how we should be doing things. And with that, if we get this rain, I'm so excited because I won't have to irrigate. I won't have to, do the things that I would as a farmer. It's going to give me a little bit of freedom if this really happens. But for all the people that have ground that has been opened and loose and dry and not prepared, I am a little worried for that, because this is when erosion starts to happen. And if we're not going to be prepared for this, it could create a lot of damage. So guys, get out there, compost, mulch, slightly aerate, don't deeply aerate, because if we do get a big storm all at once, there's a good chance for some heavy runoff. So you guys can always contact me at Nature's Touch in downtown Templeton if you guys want some help or suggestions, or, how about this is also that time, let's get our rainwater collection tubs out underneath our rain gutters. This is the time when we are going to harvest the rain so that it can continue. Because if you actually look at the weather report, yes, we are getting a huge amount of rain, but the rest of the month of March and April, it's not looking so hot. So yes, this is coming. Yes, enjoy it, but let's also think ahead of the curve here and get prepared. There's always my other slogan that I like to use, especially when raising my children and having discussions with my husband. Let's be proactive instead of reactive. And I really feel like in today's society, we're reacting off of things instead of being proactive in a lot of the decision making and planning and infrastructure planning that we are doing in this community. And just think, if we there's so many ways of being drought resilient. We could be doing so many other different things, but we got to plant the seed to get the community on board, to get better together, to figure this out. I am getting an overwhelming amount of people coming in and talking about the things on what they're hearing on the news now, and the scare part of what's going on in our society. The fun thing for me is, like I just said, what I've learned from the dirt is that I find myself getting too caught up in the scare tactic of what's going on in our community, just by simply going out in the dirt, taking a deep breath in the fresh air that we have here on the Central Coast of California, and looking around and going, okay, this might be coming down our way, but instead of being fearful, let's figure this out and let's roll with it. Let's go, because if our ancestors thought about this and didn't prepare for things and didn't plan for things, would we be all here today? No. We have to carry it on, and in every generation there's something scary. I just look back at our history books, but at the same time, people figured it out and we survived. So here we are, but this is thinking outside of the box and thinking how we're going to be able to plan for this. So I had a little lady call last week at the very end of our show and wasn't able to make it on the air, and she was wanting to know about growing purple onions. And so I wanted to make sure that, because she told me to answer it this week, purple onions, if you're planting them by seed, I planted some red onions and yellow as well as white onion by seed this last weekend on Saturday. And it takes about 7 to 14 days to germinate from seed to sprout. Onions take anywhere, depending on variety. Like if you're doing a scallion type, you're looking at anywhere from about 3 to 6 months before harvest. But if you're trying to grow a bulb, there's a good chance a lot of those take about 18 months before they're going to bulb out. So what I always suggest is think about the top as the onion starts to sprout out of the soil. Think about that as a chive. Just like your chive plants are a perennial onion that doesn't ever bulb out, and they actually bunch together. Give them a good haircut more towards the soil level of the where that sprouts up. And every time you cut your onion top, every time you cut your chive top back, the onion below, the bulb below, actually sizes up or bulges out or gets more size. And so also with like chives, the more you cut, the more you get, the bigger they become, the more flavorful they become, the more you cut. So even though a bulb onion might take up to 18 months to get it to bulb out perfectly, just keep in mind that that top of that onion is continuous food for the whole entire 18 months. We go in the grocery store and we purchase green onions, and realistically, we can have onion tops in our own garden that it can carry us on through the season. Another thing about onions is the onions that I'm planting now in the ground. Any onion, no matter what variety, Walla Walla, Vidalia, all these other sweet type of known onions, any onion that is grown in the North County of San Luis Obispo County that is grown through the heat of the summer. Okay, so an onion that you plant now and that's going to go and grow through the heat of the summer and it's going to be exposed to a lot of warmth, usually will tend to be more of a spicier or more of that onion that's going to make you cry kind of onion. But it's also going to be the onion that has a lot of clothes or a lot of skin. What does that mean? That means it's going to be a better storage onion. You could actually harvest those onions and they could store for months in a dark, cool, like cellar type area, and will continue to store as long as it has more skins or clothes. The other way is we planted some onions in the late fall, and they grew mostly through the winter. Onions thrive in cooler soils, but they continue to grow even in the summer, but not as fast as they do during the cooler soil months, like our late fall and early winter. The onions that you plant during that time and that are going through that cold time, and you harvest them in the middle to late spring, are going to be like your spring onions. Those onions are going to be, even if you grew the same variety that you did in the fall that you're harvesting in the spring, they're going to be more on the sweeter side, less clothes or less skins, so not going to be one of the most storage. Those onions, when you slice into them, will give you a good spice, but they're not going to make you cry. They are also the ones that you would want to eat more raw. where the onions that you harvest in the fall time would be the ones that you would want to cook more, because the more heat that you apply to an onion, the more sugar it intenses. So candied onions, grilled onions, those kind of onions, those are the ones, the more skin, the ones that are stored, those are the ones that are going to make the better flavored. Candy onion that you try to cook on a spring onion doesn't necessarily go to very much flavor. They actually kind of water out a lot. But to harvest a spring onion and to slice it and put it on a sandwich or a grilled burger, oh my goodness, it is like the best flavor ever. And it doesn't have the long residual taste in your mouth either. So you're not gonna have bad breath like you would be for the ones that you eat during the fall time. So I hope, ma'am, that answers your question. And if you have any other questions, you can always call in here at KPRL at 238-5775, or you can come down to Nature's Touch, and all of us family down there would be more than happy to help you with all of your gardening questions. But we're right here on the half, and when we come back, we are going to talk chickens. I want to get a little bit more into the heirloom varieties, so stay tuned after these messages. We will be back very soon. Welcome back to the second half of Nature's Neighbor right here on KPRL. If you have any questions in regards to food, family farming, and home being right here on the Central Coast of California, give us a call, 238-5775, 238-KPRL. So really quickly, because our show is really quick, I want to just bring up the conversation of chickens again, because this is the time when babies are hatching and eggs are being laid. Our chickens are coming out of our molt. But we have a lot of people coming in the store asking about chickens, and I'm just going to be honest with you, we had a little bit of a weather crisis that we didn't get a good hatch, so we're about 2 weeks behind on having availability. It went from too cold to too hot, and no matter how much lights and circulation, and the babies are just not strong. So instead of running a chance of not selling strong enough birds, we are just gonna hold off until we get a really good strong variety of chickens. But we work with other people that are hatching and raising, as well as we work with some hatcheries too. So if there's specific breeds of chickens that you are looking for, and or you just want help or questions, or want to raise your simple backyard flock, just know that we are there at Nature's Touch to also help you with that. Know that all our eggs within our store are laid and collected and cleaned, because we have to legally clean it. We have to meet all the requirements by USDA to sell our eggs. We have eggs in our store. The oldest we have is 36 hours old. And so, if you can't get any fresher than that anywhere in this county unless you are doing it yourself. And so, or, going to our local farmers markets too. I know that there's really hardworking people there that are doing it as well. So keep that in mind. So please, any of the people that are continuously asking questions, just let you know that that's what's going on with our chickens. But what is an heirloom chicken? An heirloom chicken is a chicken that has to date back at least 50 years or more without any crossbreeding in it. And so we have a very large accessibility to heirloom birds like the Andalusians and the true Plymouth Rocks, and the true Polish. The Polish chickens are my children's favorite because they always look like they woke up with a bad hair day. And they're a small to medium bird, and they're a consistent layer. They actually lay in cooler climates too, which there are the ones that end up laying all the way into the 1st of December, and are always the first ones to start laying again in the early spring. They were the ones that were the first in the box in February, and we're getting eggs from them now. And so also too, another way that you can always indicate how old your eggs are is chicken eggs and duck eggs and geese eggs and all of these eggs. When you hard boil an egg, the fresher they are, the more attached the eggshell is going to be to the whites. So when you crack an egg and that eggshell slithers off and doesn't destroy the egg whites, just keep in mind that it has to be several weeks old for it to do that. Fresh eggs, it's really hard to peel. And it's funny because I was just talking to a chef going, there's no such thing as pretty eggs when you have fresh eggs, huh? When they was making hard-boiled eggs. I'm like, we've tried, the cold water and adding a little bit of vinegar to see if the eggshell would separate. No. Fresh eggs are just not meant to be hard-boiled. Fresh eggs are supposed to be served over medium on top of really good fed bacon. That's how a fresh collected egg is supposed to be served. So with that, let's go on to one other topic I want to start the conversation with. And it's because I listened to the U.S. Farm Report this weekend, and it threw me because they're starting with all their statistics. You hear, the decline in farmers that are actually growing food, and there's all these statistics starting to come out. All the annual reports are starting to come out. But the biggest one that I just kind of scratched my head on was big media is starting to talk about genetically modified organisms, and they're asking consumers if it's important to them, if it is labeled or not. And the report that I just heard was that a majority of consumers more were worried about pricing of their grocery than the actual safety or the genetically modified organism. But then when they asked these same consumers, do you understand what a genetically modified organism is? And over 90% of that report told these people that did this report that people did not know what that was. So how do they do a report and try to do the study when they're studying people that don't even know what it is? I mean, I want to know how many of my neighbors out here in our community even really know what a genetically modified organism is, GMO. Does anybody know? I want to start that conversation. And so if you have any of these questions, call us. Give us a call, 238-5775, 238-KPRL, when we have a call.
Good afternoon. You're on Nature's Neighbor.
Hi. I don't know what GMO is. I'm looking for your explanation. But I do have a trick for taking the shells off those hard-boiled eggs.
Okay.
If you, after you boil the water and turn the water off and let the eggs sit for 12 minutes, then you empty the hot water, put them in cold water, and then pour that cold water out. Take your pan and shake it very gently, and the shells will come off on their own.
And so you're just like doing like a light crack, and then so the membrane.
Well, you don't even have to crack them. You just shake them against the side of the pan.
Yeah.
And they'll shelf themselves.
It must be the 12-minute wait, though, because I don't think I've ever waited that long.
Oh, okay. I don't know what it is, but it works.
The 12-minute must be the secret, because I've raised chickens my whole life, and it's always that battle when we want a hard-boiled egg or a deviled egg to get them to not look like they've been mangled, and
right.
So I've never...
It is harder on those fresh ones, but it'll still work, though. Try it.
I'm going to. I appreciate the call. It takes all of us neighbors getting together and figuring this out so we can make it easier for everyone.
You're very informed, and I love your show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the support. Have a good week.
Okay. You too. Bye.
So back on the call when she said the definition of GMO. Before I throw the definition of GMO, I want to have this discussion with my community. I don't want to be the person that is only going and throwing this out. I want to have more of a community input on this. And the only reason why is because I don't want to only just share my views or my definitions on things. When I listened to this farm report, it literally stated that the people that they were asking and questioning did not even know or understand what they were asking. All they cared about was the price of their grocery. But yet they didn't even understand realistically how to price compare, because they didn't even know what they were really truly being asked. And I would love to start this conversation, because I feel that there is a majority, and just like our little lady that called right now, people don't know, and so I want to carry this on. I'm not going to answer it on this show. I'm going to start talking about this throughout the week and just seeing how many people, how many, conversations we can stimulate, because how does a government go out and ask for a label when the majority of the consumer don't even know, or how do they know when they're not even giving the proper information for the consumer to price compare against? So with that, we will carry on that conversation next week, and hopefully we'll be celebrating the amount of rain that we got next week. So I'm looking forward to it. Come and visit us in downtown Templeton at Nature's Touch, 225 South Main Street on the corner of 3rd and Main. Thank you everyone for all of your continued support. My family truly appreciates living amongst you and sharing this beautiful community with all of you. Take care and have a very good week.